Guys, today we're going to talk about 9.2. It's all about solving quadratic equations by the graphing method, which I'm going to show you how you can use your calculator to help you graph. Just wanted to make sure that you saw that it is me. I'm going to click the screen to go away so you don't have to see me this whole time. All right, so the first thing I want to remind you guys of is what a quadratic equation actually looks like. So remember, a quadratic equation is, so it's y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And then our a cannot be equal to 0. Remember, what makes this a quadratic is that we have an x squared. We don't have a degree higher. We don't have to have a degree lower, but we have to have that x squared. Okay, since this lesson is all about solving quadratic equations graphically, let's remind ourselves what the graph of a quadratic looks like. A graph of a quadratic, remember, is called a parabola. Your parabolas can either smile or they can frown, right? But more specifically, when we're talking about solving a quadratic, we have those 4 vocabulary words that we've been using since chapter 4, and that is solution, root, 0, and x-intercept. You guys usually do not remember what these are until you hear me say x-intercept, because you know that an x-intercept means where you cross or touch the x-axis. Okay, so all 4 of those words mean the same thing. So on this first parabola that I drew, we would have 2 solutions, and they would be in those 2 spots because that's where they're crossing through. On the second parabola that I drew, you would have 1 solution. It's where it's just touching that x-axis and it's bouncing right back off. There's actually one more option. You could have a parabola that just is in one of the 4 quadrants. It's not touching or crossing through the x-axis, so it wouldn't have any solutions. So we need to remember that you could have 0 solutions, 1 solution, or 2 solutions for any quadratic that you're graphing. So we're going to mosey on down here to the solving part. So first you want to make sure you're in standard form. So on number 1, I have x squared plus 4x equals 0. This equals 0 tells me that I'm in standard form. So I can go ahead and graph. So I have linked the calculator that I'm using on the notes and on Google Classroom, so you'll have it. It looks a little different than our TI calculator, but since I'm using the Chromebook, I couldn't get the TI one to download, but it's close enough. Let me go make sure I know what equation I'm using. So x squared plus 4x. So I'm going to go over here and do my x squared plus my 4x. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to graph it for me. Okay, so now I see that my solutions, or my roots, or my x-intercepts are going to be at -4 and at 0. So when I go back over to my notes, I have graphed it. So I'm not really going to worry about graphing it on my notes. I know that x is equal to -4 and x is equal to 0. Those are my solutions. Okay, on this second problem, I notice that I'm not set equal to 0. Okay, so I'm definitely not in standard form, so I need this -x squared to move over here with this -x and this +1. So to move something from one side of the equal sign to the other, you're going to do the opposite operation. So this -x squared, since it means subtract, we're going to add our x squared to both sides of that equal sign. Well, when we do this, our -x squared and +x squared combine to give us a 0. Then x squared cannot be added to a -2x or to a 1. Those are not like terms. So I'm going to bring down these 3 terms that I have in standard form order. So I start with the highest degree, which would be my x squared. Then I would have my -2x. Then I would have my +1. Excuse me. So this is what I'm going to put into my calculator. X squared minus 2x plus 1. So I'm going to go back over to my calculator. I'm going to delete all that. And over here, I have x squared minus 2x plus 1. Enter. And now this is what my parabola looks like. So again, I'm looking for where it crosses or touches the x-axis, so I can clearly see I only have one solution on this problem, and it is at 1. So I go back over here, and my solution is going to be at x equals 1. Okay, number 3. Again, I'm looking for, are we in standard form? And I can see yes, because we are equal to a 0. So I'm going to put an x squared plus 2x plus 4 into my calculator. X squared plus 2x plus 4. Let me double check that. Yes. Then I'm going to hit enter, and here is my parabola now. So again, I am looking at where I cross or touch this x-axis. Does this parabola even get close to this x-axis? No, it has all of this space in between. So over here, if it doesn't cross or touch, I know that that means this is going to have no solutions. Now, some of you want to just put 0, but if you put 0, notice over here, 0 can be a solution. 0 is a number, okay? So we don't want to put a 0. We want to put no solution. Okay, so at this point, I want you to go and pause this video, and I want you to try 4, 5, and 6. Okay, pause. All right, so how did you do? On number 4, I got x equals 1 and x equals 4. So if you want to see my calculator, this is number 4. So x equals 1 and x equals 4, which came from this equation. Then number 5, x equals negative 3. So this is number 5. You can see it's only crossing right here in one spot. And then the last one, I got no solution. So this is number 6. So no solution because you see the parabola is up here. It doesn't even get close to that x-axis. Okay, hopefully y'all did awesome. Going back to our notes. We have the next few. They already graph it for us and they want us to find the zeros. So again, remember that zeros are the same thing as root, a solution, or an x-intercept. So looking at this problem, I notice that I have one here, and one here. So that would be x equals 0, 1, and 2. Okay, I didn't have to worry about this equation up here. I just had the graph. So the next one, I see I have one here and one here. So that would be at x equals negative 2 and 1. Then here I have one here, here, and here. So x equals negative 1, positive 1, and positive 3. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try the next 3. Okay, pause the video. All right, so there's the next 3. This first one, x equals negative 3, negative 2, and negative 1. The next one, x equals 1, 2, and 3. And then the last one, x equals negative 1, 1, and 3. How did you guys do? Okay, this is all that there is to solving quadratics by graphing. So you're ready to go on to the Big Ideas assignment. Remember to keep your notes handy in case you need to use them during your assignment.